Bat fans. This is Batman.
And Robin, the Boy Wonder.
And me too, Batmite.
Welcoming you to the new adventures of Batman. Watch us wage our never-ending battle of good versus evil.
Ride with us as we chase the greatest array of villains the world has ever seen, proving that crime does not pay.
Get set for thrills and action. Join me, Batman.
And me, Robin the Boy Wonder.
And Batgirl. And me too, Batmite.
In the super new adventures of
Batman.
Welcome back, citizens, to an all-new episode of the Batcave podcast. It's your old bat chum, John S. Drew here, and we're touring the streets of Gotham in 1977 once again as we hit the road and take a look here at the Filmation 1977 Batman series. And joining me from his lair over at Comic Book Central is the man himself, Mr. Joe Stuber. Hey, Joe.
Hey, John, how are you doing, my bat chum? I hope you are feeling supersized today because we've got some bite-sized material to take on today.
I am supersized on a regular-sized episode with some bite-sized heroes here that we're going to be dealing with.
This is an odd duck, I think, as you said before we started.
It is an odd duck. It's, again, an introduction of a new villain here in the form of Electro, which we'll get into that in a second. Let me tell you about this.
Is it a new villain?
Well, he's new to us in the sense that we've never had an Electro, but then there's also Electro from Spider-Man. Plus, Batman and Robin seem to know who Electro is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I guess they've run into him before or something. So, or maybe who knows? I
guess
that was a strange. Maybe there's a deleted scene somewhere. Maybe there's a lost New Adventures of Batman scene out there that we haven't seen. That were
perhaps
ran into Electro, but he is an interesting character.
And then to top it all off, if you all recall from the last episode we did in which Dan Greenfield joined us for the Catwoman Clayface team up, I said at the end of the episode they were going to be facing Brainiac, and I was basing that off the DC Universe app's description, and I went with it.
So, right. So, and I think something must have got it mixed up on the way. But as you're watching this, that's the first thing that pops into my mind. Obviously, with the shrinking ray, and there's a lot of stuff put in bottles, and even the one character that's with. There's two characters here. They're aliens, but there's another character with them that kind of has the color scheme of Brainiac, this sort of green and purple things. So it's be hard to say that the writer Len Jansen wasn't inspired somehow by Brainiac on this. But as with Filmation and Scheimer and everything, they're always like, if we got our own character, we can we can own that character. I guess in that universe, that the thought they did that with Secrets of Isis. We saw things like that. But yeah, I got a real Brainiac vibe from this, really. Anyway, so it's kind of like Brainiac.
Well, he kind of looked like if your mom went to the dollar store and bought you, because she couldn't afford $6 Million Man, and she came back with, what was it they called it back then, Atomic Man. It's Atomic Man. Here's your Brainiac, dear. It's Electro, and you're looking at it. That's not Brainiac, Mom.
The knockoffs, yeah, the cheap knockoffs you get for a couple of bucks. This would be the Brainiac knockoff, the Electro. But that said, wasn't he concerned? He probably didn't know, but wouldn't there have been a concern at the time that you're ripping off the name of Marvel Comics, Electro?
Exactly.
Because he had been around since 64? I think it was Amazing Spider-Man #9 or something. He had been around. So, yeah, you're not going to get the name. You're not going to be able to sell action figures or something with Electro. Maybe Marvel wasn't as litigious back in the day. Certainly Disney would have something to say about it now.
Yeah, exactly. But also, why is he called Electro? There's nothing about him that suggests electricity.
No, I mean, there's lasers and rays and stuff, and his costume, it's sort of electrified or something. But yeah, it's really not an electricity-based guy, alien. But it just probably sounded a cool name. And, the writer Len Jansen, he probably didn't. I mean, maybe he wasn't familiar with Spider-Man. That he was kind of in the DC universe and doing stuff for Filmation and everything. So maybe he wasn't as familiar with it. But I'm fine with it. It's cool that there's an Electro in the DC universe.
Oh, yeah.
Place you can find him. But I thought he was a cool villain. And it's weird because when you watch the opening credits on this one, too, it looks like, did you get the sense that because he has a shrinking ray, obviously you can shrink things, but it looks like he has the power, at least in the opening credits, to make himself almost like Ant-Man. He can shrink himself down, he can make himself large again on his own without a ray.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I kind of got from that. But you don't see that in the episode at all. So, maybe just a miscommunication in the animation department. But
you don't see it in the episode. There's a lot, though, about him that's such a mystery because the way they open it up here. Arrives on his ship, right? And he's got this henchman who's not like the usual henchman who's there sort of like saying stupid things or doing stupid things. He's there just being subservient.
The area is clear, sire. There are no Earthlings within 100 miles of us.
Excellent. Is everything ready for my departure?
Everything is ready. Hovercraft standing by.
And from the looks of it, Electro is the leader of his planet.
If everything goes as planned, I shall return with Batman and Robin. In miniature.
He calls him Sire.
Yes.
Right. He calls him Sire. And this guy's just called Commander. He just refers to him as Commander. But he kind of has that robotic. I mean, we see the mind control being played into it later.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of cool with Adam and Bert when they do the voiceover. But you kind of see that play out with this Commander, too. So does Electro, has he just mind controlled an entire planet to be subservient to him? Because this guy's like this commander's like very robotic. It's almost like he has been brainwashed. Mm-hmm. It's like you said, it's not like a true henchman. He doesn't even have a real name. He's not like in on the plan with him. He's just kind of like taking orders from Electro. So yeah, it'd be weird. I don't know, maybe we get some backstory on it. Maybe somebody can do some fan fiction and write a backstory for Electro on his planet. Like how did this happen? And how did Batman and Robin know about him? And Batgirl.
Right.
He just pops in. They're like, Electro, like, oh, it's you. I'm like, what? I thought he was new.
Yep.
So maybe there's a hidden mysterious adventure that we don't know about. I don't know.
I did like his chameleon circuit, though, for his ship.
I thought the ship was cool. I thought the spaceship was cool. Yeah. And because it like kind of lands out in the desert area or something like that, and just it becomes like a rock or whatever the environment is around. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the ship was like way cool. Yeah. And his little hovercraft that comes out of it, and he's got like, again, we always talk about the toy line for this series. Mm-hmm. That would have made a really cool set of toys. The Electro spacecraft and hovercraft.
Mm-hmm. If he caught on as a more frequent villain.
You might have to sell it with the knockoff version at the dollar store. Maybe it would have caught on there. Maybe.
Now, okay, I got to ask, the Batmobile in need of repairs to the extent that it is, the way it's making the noise and everything, and then it's up to Robin. Robin's our chief mechanic.
How's it coming, Robin?
We'll know in a minute, Batman. Keep your fingers crossed. Okay, try it now. Hey, all right. Sounds like it's gonna make it this time. Holy smoke! I give up.
Have you thought about trying the old hairpin and gum trick?
Very funny.
Come on, we'll take the Batcomputer. We don't want to be late for the banquet. After all, it is in our honor.
Yeah, well, I mean, who else is it going to be? Like, apparently Batman doesn't know how to fix. He just fights. He's the world's greatest detective. He's not the world's greatest mechanic.
And we don't have Alfred.
No, there's no Alfred in this show. So, I mean, yeah, who else is going to fix the Batmobile? It's got to be Robin, right? I mean, it seems about right. He's always like, he's like, even in the movies, he's kind of like, a motorcycle guy, and he's always like, mechanic. He's, kind of mechanical, the Chris O'Donnell version, things like that. So that kind of makes sense. Okay. He's working on it. I don't know if I trust the Batmobile that it doesn't start and then it can be fixed because Bat might levitates it and crashes it.
It crashes it so it all shakes into place.
I guess. What was wrong with it? I don't know if I trust driving the Batmobile after that. I don't know. Just some interesting things. Before we get too far into it, though, I do want to mention, I don't think we've talked about the writers as much. I mean, we've talked about a little bit Chuck Melville. I think we chat about him a little bit, but Len Jansen, I don't know that we in the past episodes have talked much about Len, and he's written several of the episodes, but he's typically paired up with, as we mentioned, Chuck Menville.
Right. On
the episodes, I think if we got right, The Pest, I think one of our favorites, the first episode, they both wrote that one. Curses Oiled Again, we talked about that one, both on that one. Bite Sized, this one we're talking about, just Jansen wrote this. Dead Ringers is coming up. Just Jansen wrote that. And then they both teamed up for Birds of a Feather, Fool Around Together, and this looks like a job for Batmite. And then I think we talked about Chuck on Moon Man, and then he's also got Chameleon as well that he wrote by himself. So it looks like they teamed up on a few episodes. They wrote their own episodes. Just Jansen on this one. But I did want to mention something we haven't talked about. Man, how amazingly creative these guys were. And something, just in doing some research for this, one thing I came across was they were nominated for an Oscar in 1967 for this, stop motion animation. What do they call it? Like some type of pixelation technology or something short that they did. Stop, Look, and Listen. I think I remember. It's on YouTube. So
yeah, you sent me a link to it.
Yeah, after you listen to this episode of the podcast, go check it out. It's on YouTube. Stop, Look, and Listen. Chuck Menville and Len Jansen. But they wrote, produced, and starred in this, and it's basically this PSA about don't have road rage and look both ways when you stop at light. Stop, look, and listen. Right? I think I remember them showing this to us in school for some reason, in the 70s or something. For some reason, because we would always see film strips. They'd always have films in school. You play, you watch it, and film reel would break and everything. But I think I remember this because I'm watching this, and it seems so familiar. But it's basically they're two guys are cars. They are cars, Jansen and Menville, and one's very. He obeys the rules of the road. He's wearing a suit and a hat and everything, and he stops, looks, and listens both. And the other one's just like this road rage sports car, but there's no cars. They are the cars. So they're and it's almost like this Harold Lloyd kind of thing, from back in the day. It's just, you got to see it. It's just brilliant. And it almost makes me wish what happens to the sports car in this, I wish would happen to every road rage person out there. Just carted off at the end, towed away. But it just, some of the stuff is just sheer brilliance. I mean, pulling up to the gas station and shoving the gas pump in the mouth and filling up that. It's really fun. But these are the guys that are behind, a lot of these, Batman episodes that we're talking about. So I thought it was cool. And they did a lot of stuff with Filmation. Shazam, Secrets of Isis, Tarzan, Groovy Ghoulies, Archie, Star Trek. The Practical Joker episode, Once Upon a Planet. One of my favorites, Charles Nelson Riley. He did Uncle Croc's Block for Filmation, and they worked on that. They were listed as co-creators of Uncle Croc's Block. It was sort of this fractured satirical take on kids' TV, where Charles Nelson Riley plays this kid show host, just a croc dog. He hated it. There's a book, we've talked about this before, Creating the Filmation Generation by Lou Scheimer and Andy Mangos. It's a great book. If you don't have it, go get it. But it tells some great Charles Nelson Riley stories about this show, how he hated it, and he would take the costume off in between and just walk around in his leopard shorts and scream at everybody. And it's amazing. But they apparently co-created Uncle Croc's Block. So it's kind of cool to go back and learn about some of these folks. I don't, lost Menville in 92, I believe. But Len Jansen, look, if anybody knows, I've done some research. I haven't found anything if he's still around or not. But that'd be kind of cool if he was still around. Maybe we'll talk to him or something. But if anybody knows, let us know here at the Batcave podcast. Yeah, I haven't been able to find anything on Len.
What I like about the two of them, I mean, this, I think, is the first series I've seen where I've paid attention to the fact that they've each done individual episodes. I'm so used to seeing them together, whether it was on Star Trek or whether it was on, Shazam and ISIS and such. But these two are writing in the thick of the 70s when violence is verboten. We got to do this in a way where we can have adventure, but without throwing punches or crashing planes or what. We got to make this as exciting as possible, but keep the violence out. And they managed to walk it, nicely. I think for most of their writing. Yeah,
that was always the thing on Shazam. You couldn't back in the '60s. Adam and Bert could throw punches. The whole show was about them throwing punches. Bam, biff, pow, and everything was fighting. And then not so much in the 70s. We talked to anybody that was on Shazam or Secrets of Isis. They're like, you just had to levitate things or fly or lift things or show strength, but you couldn't throw a punch for these superheroes. And that was the trickiest part. So that had to be a tough line to walk. You think that lasted so long too, because even in Batman the Animated Series in the 90s,
right? There
were rules. Like you couldn't show a gun, like you couldn't pull a gun out and shoot and different things like that. So rules were in place for animation for a long, long time, but probably never more so than, like you said, in this era. So that was a tricky line to walk for them. And they did it fantastic. This episode we're talking about today, Bite Says, I like this episode. I'm just gonna say it.
I do too.
It is a fun watch. There's some really weird stuff in it, but overall I like it.
I like it for some of the dialogue, which I will point out as we're going along here. It's pretty funny. I also like it, as I mentioned at the top. There's some things that stand out. There's basically, Batman and Robin are having like this honorary thing that's being done for them, which is right out of the 60s, where the city honors them for their courage and their bravery. But did you catch, because I loved while they're in the Batcave and Batmite shows up, Adam's hopeless delivery.
What's happening, dynamic duo?
Oh, no.
Having a little car trouble, are you?
Nothing serious, Batmite. I'll fix it later.
I'll fix the Batmobile in a jiffy. Stand back.
Never mind, Batmite. We'll... Batmite, we're kind of in a hurry, and...
Don't worry, Batman. I'll have you on the road in a snap.
I think at this point, even Adam is like the rest of our audience who don't like Batmite. They're like, oh, for God's sakes. He sells the, could you just please go away, lines there. But then later, when Gordon introduces the two of them, and Batman gets up and thanks the audience, he does it in a staccato voice like this.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We really appreciate your enthusiastic support and are deeply grateful for this celebration here tonight.
Batman! Robin! Look out!
And I'm listening to it going, that's not Adam. I think that's Nom Prescott doing an Adam impression.
Oh, I didn't even think of that, because it did sound odd for that situation.
Yeah.
It did sound like an odd reading, because the first thing I thought was when you talk about that sort of staccato, stilted, slow delivery, we know on the series he would do that so he could get more screen time.
Yes.
Burt Ward's talked about that before, where he, the longer you spoke, the more obviously you're on camera. Well, that doesn't work in animation, because you could just chop it all up and edit it down and then just animate over top of it. So yeah, I did find that odd in that moment. So maybe you're right. Maybe that was an additional line of dialogue or something like that they added later. They couldn't get Adam at the time. Yeah, interesting. I'll have to go back and rewatch that part.
Mm-hmm. Because later he's going to have a similar staccato delivery, he and Burt Ward, because they're both going to be under the control of Electro.
Yeah, now that I thought was good, because when they do the mind control, and again, back in the day, it was like, if somebody was under mind control or they were zombified or something like that, you always had this kind of, it's like, I don't know why you would talk like that, but that was kind of a thing back then.
Yeah.
And they, to their credit, I think you got to give Adam and Burt credit. They could have just, walked in, said the lines, cashed the check, and walked out.
Oh, sure.
And nobody would have cared. But they really sell that.
Mm-hmm.
They're really throwing themselves into that. So that was one of my favorite parts, even though it is kind of like very, of that era of brainwashed voices. I liked it. I liked the fact that they were given everything they had.
Do you think, though, that he was a little over the top because Electro shrinks them, captures them at the ceremony there, and he tells them he wants them to steal military secrets, and Adam's delivery of "no way"? Like, I just thought, wow, dude, that's like you're chastising a kid or something. You're not going to the park today. No way.
I just kind of took that as like that was what the hero would say. Like, you could never make us do it. And that plays in later, too, because Electro's like, wait till Gotham City finds out what their heroes did. Mm-hmm. So I think it really shows the contrast of he made them do something criminal. Mm-hmm. And he's going to show Gotham City this. So not only is he going to, hatch his scheme and have everything go his way, but he's also going to, put the kibosh on Batman and Robin, because he's going to make them out to be criminals. And I took that line reading from Adam as that will never happen. Like, right. I'm really going to enforce this. So again, I just think it's them committing to this, overall. But this is such a product of the 66 series too, because like you said, there's so many elements where they're, the big giant banner on the front and the Batmobile's parked outside. Yep. On the street, and it's like honoring Batman and Robin, and there's a whole audience there, and they did that all the time. You could remember like always running up the steps to City Hall, and there's always like something going on. They park out front, and it just it's such a an homage to that series too. But and that scene really, that's where you get the Brainiac thing, because Electro talks about threatening to shrink Gotham City.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, well, that's the whole Candor thing then, too. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of bottles. Things getting put in bottles and jars and things like that. So, yeah, definitely a Brainiac vibe on him.
Yeah. Yeah. I did mention, I did like a lot of the dialogue, like when Batmite runs off after Electro chasing after them and stuff, and Gordon goes,
"Batmite, come back here! Batmite! There goes Gotham City!"
Yes.
Things like that I just love.
There's nothing you do about it, right? Because like Batmite can disappear and pop ups anywhere. So he's like, how are you going to catch him? Right. And he has to hope for the best. People kind of rip on Batmite all the time, but Electro, who you would think is like this really smart alien dude, right? There's a line where he says that little runt, talking about Batmite, is smarter than I thought. Mm-hmm. So again, and you see that play into this, because Batman and Robin are distracted by this, by being honored at this event. They don't even see the alien coming in behind them, getting ready to shrink him, and Batmite's the one that warns them. Right. Just a little too late, but it's like Batmite's trying to save him again, and he has to come to their rescue again. So, yeah, he is smarter than most people give him credit for. At least Electro thought that.
Well, I also happened to, like, as I was watching, I said, wouldn't it have been more cooler if Batman and Robin didn't know who Electro was, but Batmite did and filled them in?
Oh, like that he had run into him on another planet. Right. Or in another dimension or something like that. That would have been cool. Like, or, he could have explained it to Batgirl later who he was or something. Yeah, that probably would have been. I guess they just had to get to the action so quick. But yeah, that kind of threw me off too, because like everybody, even Batgirl knows who Electro is. You're like, well, you haven't established that anywhere. But again, it's filmation. You just kind of buy into it and go over. I thought the plan was interesting that Electro had, because he's got all this technology. I guess he wants to take over Earth. Right. So he's got all this shrinking technology, but he's trying to shrink the missile defense systems that are in place in North America, and you take that and then use that to conquer the world. I guess then he has all the missiles, but he seems to have a lot of lasers and stuff anyway in his spaceship. I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like, wouldn't he have the technology that's even more advanced than ours? Yeah. To do that, or just shrink everybody, like shrink all the world leaders? Then you could control. I don't know. Again, try not to think about it too hard. But I learned something from the New Adventures of Batman.
And it wasn't in the Bat message.
No, it definitely was not in the Bat message. It's rarely in the Bat message. But he goes after Project Nike. Did you even look? Grant, I probably should have known what this was and didn't. But when I think of Nike, all I think of are tennis shoes, right? Yeah. Did you know what the Project Nike was? No. Okay, did you have a chance to look at it? Because I did. I didn't. Spoiler alert, I did look it up.
I just thought they were being...
I learned. I educated myself this week.
So they actually based this on some reality.
Yes. Okay. Here it is. Project Nike is not a tennis shoe. It was a U.S. Army project proposed back in May 1945 by Bell Laboratories. They developed a line-of-sight anti-aircraft missile system. So this is a thing. So Jansen knew what this was. And there's all these rockets, the Nike Ajax. They mentioned not the Cleanser, but it was the Nike Ajax. But Nike, again, learning stuff. I didn't know what Nike meant, even with the tennis shoes. This was the goddess of victory from Greek mythology. I'm learning stuff. Hopefully these will pop up on Jeopardy at some point, and then I can know these things. But I went to nps.gov, nationalparkservice.gov, and there's the Nike missile site. It's a Cold War museum. It says during the 10 years of the Cold War from 53 to 79. So there you go, right here in the heart of it. The U.S. Army built and operated close to 300 Nike missile sites in the U.S. These sites were designed as the last line of defense against Soviet bombers. Today, a dedicated group of volunteers works in partnership with the Golden Gate National Recreation Area on the continuous task of restoration at SF-88L, the only fully restored Nike missile site in the country. So if you want to see this animated episode of Batman come to life, there it is. You can tour. It's a museum. It says it's an enduring reminder of the Cold War and allows visitors to reflect upon the realities of the Cold War and their influence in today's society. I should go there and learn more things because I probably should know more about history this time period. But, at the time I was watching Batman.
Yeah.
But who knew? Jansen was educating us while we're watching Batman. This is a real thing. This is a real missile site. So apparently Electro knew about it. He knew his history. And wanted all these missiles, right? These 300 missiles were. I guess he was going to shrink them and put them in his arsenal?
Put him in his arsenal or just make sure that they couldn't be used against him when he tried to invade?
Yeah, it was never clear, was it?
Right.
He and the commander, they're shrinking things. So, yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. But again, it's, okay. But it is cool that it's based on some historical fact. And, and Batman's in there taking pictures of where these missile sites are. He shrinks them. That's the whole thing is he shrinks Batman and Robin down so they can sneak into this government facility and go to Project Alpha, which is really clearly labeled in this facility. This top secret military project has this giant sign on it saying Project Alpha, that they can just walk right in. But anyway, I thought that was kind of funny too.
But that's the thing. I've found that almost every episode, as off the wall, sometimes crazy as some of them are, there are some things that sort of ground you in reality, whether it's certain lines or phrases, or there's a scene where Batman and Robin get away from Electro. Their bottle that they're in, gets thrown into the water. And as it's floating in the water, I don't know why, it just stuck out to me this time, the garbage that's floating around.
Yeah.
And then even when they get free and get to land and they're running across the grass area, more garbage. It's we just toss garbage.
We do, yeah. And it's interesting because Filmation always gets ripped for not having details in the background of animation. Yeah. It's just kind of this basic stuff. But in this one, it was populated with a lot of stuff. And here's the thing. I knew Lou Scheimer had a lot going on at the time. I did not know he had his own line of soup. Really? That I didn't know. Yes. Well, you see it floating there. Lou's chicken noodle soup, the can that's floating in the water when Batman going to throw it in. I don't know if you caught that, but it says Lou's chicken noodle soup on it. So even the animators were having fun at the time. Who knew? Lou Scheimer, chicken noodle soup, right? But it just famous animator. No. But
just the whole idea of having that reality in a kid with and it's funny because we say later on the Bat message, there is no Bat message, there's nothing really to teach us there, but here we are being wow, there's a lot of pollution. There's a lot of pollution, so that could have been the Bat messages. Don't. But I'm surprised they didn't have a Norm can of something out there floating around too, because the two were always fighting who got credit. The little spinny thing, their names, who got credit on top and everything. So I'm surprised they threw that. An animator sneaked that in. I thought that was kind of cool. But full disclosure, I have it on in the background as we're watching it, and the Lou soup can came up again. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's interesting. They're driving. First, he puts their shrunken bodies in a pickle jar. And calls them the dynamic pickles. The dynamic pickles. And then it's more in line with a laboratory bottle after that with the cork in it. I thought that was a little strange. And then Electro, because he's so distracted by them, almost crashes his hovercraft. Yes.
And maybe he should have watched Stop, Look, and Listen, from our It shouldn't have been the road rage guy crash. But they get thrown out into the water. And, obviously they escape. There's a little bat, the glass cutter thing, the little laser thing cuts it out. And they get out. So they're trapped in the water there. But another cool aspect, and maybe a tie back. So even though this is 1977 Batman, this episode in our fake world of reality, I think would have to take place before the 66 episode or the 66 series episode Surf's Up, Joker's Under.
Yes.
We've got a long swim ahead of us, and I'm afraid we're going to look like bait to some of the fish along the way.
Well, look at it this way, Batman. You always wanted to learn how to surf, and I can't think of a better time than now.
Good thinking, Robin. Let's go.
Batman is an expert surfer in that one, but in this one, Robin says, "Oh, you've always wanted to learn how to surf. Now's the time." So they get this little piece of wood that gets cracked off, and they surf. There's a whole surfing scene in this one too. So I'm going to put this one. I'm going to retroactively go back through history and plop this one before that episode.
It goes between Enter Batgirl, Exit Penguin, and Surf's Up, Joker's Under.
Exactly. That is, if you can take this episode and put that right in there. We can put that in there because obviously Batman hasn't figured out how to surf yet. So he learns it in this episode. If you're wondering why he's such a good surfer, we don't get the shorts. We don't get the bat shorts in this one.
No, we don't. No, we managed
get
to
Batman
avoid
and Robin
that.
surfing. So that was fun. Again, it's one. There's so many fun moments in this. I love that. I love the scene of them surfing.
Yeah.
And like you said, running past the garbage and doing all these things. It's kind of cool. And another thing, another trope from 70s is like you always saw the heroes like jumping from a moving vehicle. And you like do the drop and roll thing. You can, of course, jump from a speeding car if you roll, right? I mean, that saves you all the time. I didn't know you could do that from a flying helicopter.
Yeah.
Wow. Just when you land, roll, you can drop from several, 1,000 feet in the air or whatever it is.
Yeah. That was a bit much. When they're finally after, and I love that, the Batcomputer restores them to regular heights. They didn't even need Electro for this. The Batcomputer is able to save. I liked the Batcomputer because I think this is the first time that I don't know if the comics did it, that the Batcomputer verbally talks. It's not just through punch cards or readouts or anything like that. It talks back to Batman and Robin.
Well, dynamic duo, looks like you could use some help.
Electro used a shrinking ray on us, Batcomputer. Can you come up with an antidote that'll bring us back to normal?
That Electro is a very clever fellow, all right. Too bad he can't put his smarts to good use. Oh well, I'll see what I can do.
People could correct me if they're like, oh no, the comics had it doing it too, so I don't know.
Yeah. Batcomputer in this series kind of full of itself, no?
Yes.
A little bit?
Yes, it is.
A little bit of attitude in it.
Yeah.
It's like, he fixes them, but he wants credit for it. And then like when they're in the helicopter, he's like, oh, give Electro my regards.
Yes.
He had a little bit of an attitude, It's kind of like Kit, the Knight Rider. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kit always had a little bit of attitude. He always gave Michael Knight a little something back. Mm-hmm. So
I like that. And I don't know, the very ending, we finally get Batgirl in play after Batmite goes and goes looking for her and meets up with Barbara. And clearly Batmite, we've been trying to figure out who knows what about whom in this show. Batmite does not know that Batgirl and Barbara Gordon are one and the same. So
no, and again, depending on the production order, I mean, this one aired, we're doing them in production, air date order. Right. So this was March 26th, 1977. So wherever this fits. No, but again, if we're dropping this into that 66 series, nobody knows who she is. So that makes perfect sense, right? Yeah. And she lives in the mansion, at the commissioner's mansion there, or giant house or whatever. And the commissioner's got this giant painting or picture of him and Batgirl.
Framed. So, I loved it.
Yeah, why wouldn't he have a picture of him and Barbara? Like, unless that's in another room or something. I don't know. Is that his shrine? Apparently, everybody loves Batgirl. Not only Batmite, but Yeah, that's kind of strange. And then he's there looking for her, and where's the commissioner? The commissioner's off, trying to figure out the Electro thing. I don't know what he's doing because he never shows up again. But then she's like, "Oh, hold on, let me go get her." And then Batgirl pops out. So, do you think Bat might would have figured it out? I was like, "Oh, you were right here all along."
Yeah.
Anyway,
let's say goodbye to Barbara before we leave. Nothing.
Yeah, it's not a strong Batgirl episode, but I like her in this, and it's always so cool to watch Batmite, riding with her on the Batgirl cycle and just kind of hanging on and just lost in love. It's always kind of fun to watch that, and she does do something at the end to distract you. She puts her life on the line.
She's the decoy.
She's the decoy. She offers to do that, and she's like, "I can take care of myself. I can do this." While Batman and Robin can come in and throw the batarangs and take out the shrink ray that's like shrinking everything down. So they all kind of work together nicely at the end. It's just not a strong Batgirl themed episode all the way through.
No.
But again, it's got its moments in it. We've got another great Bert utterance, wallowing water beds. We've got holy dog paddles. So there's some cool ones in there. I like it. Jansen obviously knew his 66 Batman. He knew to throw those in there.
Yep, exactly. He did.
And now, these messages.
Pretend that this is what you want to be. With wannabe. And you can make believe you're gonna be. With wannabe.
I want to be a doctor.
Wanna be arms and legs to move. Wanna be hands and heart.
I want to be a firefighter.
You can dream that you wanna be. With wannabe. That you wanna be. With wannabe.
Wannabe's play figures come with their own accessories. Each Wannabe set is sold separately.
By Gabriel.
Here comes Kim D'Angelo trying to spear all those rings in 10 seconds flat. 5, 6, she's done it.
Nice going, Kim.
Ring spearing's hard work. Takes plenty of sleep and good nutrition every day. Kim likes to start her hard-working breakfast with Kellogg's Sugar Pop cereal. Tasty pops of corn with 8 important vitamins and iron.
Crunchy, too.
One great way to start your hard-working breakfast. Kellogg's Sugar Pops.
Bat message.
Well, Robin, Electro is in the slammer, and the missile base has been returned to its normal size.
Thanks to my antidote.
Hey, Batcomputer, how about returning me to my normal size? 6'3" and 200 hard muscle pounds. Well, would you believe 3'3" and 55 lumpy muscle pounds?
The Bat message, always the weakest, traditionally the weakest element of the series. They definitely gave up in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's basically Electro's in the slammer and the missile base has been returned to its normal size. That's not really a message. It's kind of like a recap. It's the Bat recap. And then the Batcomputer's like, thanks to my antidote. Like, all thanks to me. Not you didn't do anything. I did it.
Yep.
I don't know. Yeah, the Batcomputer is kind of full of itself, but I guess I kind of like it.
Overall, it was fun. I enjoyed it. As I say, it was more for the oddities than the story itself, and for the questions. Like you say, let's get some fan fiction here about Electro and his background, and what's with his world. I mean, really, if this were like a real, like in the sense of because we already see they don't bother with the messages with the Bat message, but if this were like a real Filmation thing, it would be one of these things where Electro it needs the Earth because it's got resources that his world burned out ages ago.
Yeah, I think they kind of did that, something like that with Moon Man.
Yes.
Where you kind of like there's a reason for him being there. We don't really get that here. There's not much background. Right. So yeah, he's definitely one-dimensional villain. But again, I think like you said, it's more for the moments of the episode. There's just some really cool moments in this. I like the spaceship. I like the toys. There's some good jokes. There's a great joke because Batmite wants to go with Batgirl to distract him, and she's like, "Stay low," and he's like, "You're talking to a guy that's 2 foot tall. What else is there to do?"
Yeah. See. Yeah.
It's a nice line. It made me laugh out loud. So yeah. There's some good moments, and if you like Batmite. And we do like Batmite. There's some good moments in here, and he does help them all the way through this episode. So sorry, Batmite haters. He's awesome, and he gets some great lines in it.
Yeah. No, I mean he's not troublesome. Like we sometimes do see he's not troublesome in this episode.
Right. No, if Commissioner Gordon's like, oh, there goes Gotham City. No, he just saved Gotham City. So, what did you do? What did you do, Commissioner Gordon? You didn't do anything. You weren't even at the house. You were, what did you do, shuffling paperwork at the office? No, Batmite's there to save the day.
Well, he and the Batcomputer.
Computer. So full of itself. So full of it. Hey, if it's that good, why didn't it fix the Batmobile?
Right.
If the Batcomputer's that good that it can figure out an antidote to an alien shrink ray, fix the engine on the Batmobile. But again, it's up to Batmite, right?
Yeah.
He's got to fix the car. He's got to do everything.
Yep. All right, then. I think we've pretty much talked this one out. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I think so. This one can be safely put away in the archive.
Safely put away in the archive. There you go. One for the books here. Now, before we head on out of here, though, Joe, tell us what's happening over at the Lair at Comic Book Central.
A lot of celebrations. I like celebrations, right? I like parties. I like to celebrate. I love anniversaries. I'm telling you what, 2021 has brought on a lot of anniversaries as I'm going through. One of my favorite television series of all time, and I'm sure you love it as well, The Greatest American Hero.
Oh, yeah.
Look, they're going to be doing, it's probably already aired as of this airing of this episode, but the Goldbergs is supposed to be doing something for the 40th anniversary. Hey, just remember who started the 40th anniversary Greatest American Hero celebration first. That was on Comic Book Central. So it started off with Dennis Danger Matalone. He was a stunt coordinator. He did all the crashes. If you've seen the show, he takes the header into the billboard. He did all the crazy into the trees. We talked about all these things. Star Trek fans love him because he's on 3 Star Trek series at the same time. He did a full burn, I think, in Deep Space Nine. He's amazing. So talk to Dennis Danger Matalone. William Catt returned to the show. I've had William on the show several times. This was special. We got a chance to do a Comic Book Central commentary on the episode My Heroes Have Always Been Cowboys. This is the one where Ralph Hinckley meets the Lone Ranger, John Hart. It's one of my all-time favorite episodes. I got in touch with William. He's like, yeah, I'll do a commentary with you. So it's actually on the YouTube channel. So if you look at the Comic Book Central YouTube channel, you can watch us watching that episode. So you get your DVD, you pop it in, you got a nice commentary on that. It was so much fun. We caught up with, since the last time I talked to him, he had appeared on Supergirl and a couple of other, comic booky themed things. So we talked about that. That was fun. Michael Pare, like Tony Villacana on the series, he was on. I've got Faye Grant. She's coming up. Her schedule got really busy right now, but she's going to be coming up on the show. So I'm doing a bunch of Greatest American Hero themed episodes. Reached out to a few others. We'll see how that plays out. Another, so that's a 40th anniversary, 30th anniversary of The Rocketeer. Love this flick. The interview I've been working to get since 2013, we finally got it for the 30th anniversary. Billy Campbell, The Rocketeer himself, he's on the show. So that episode is out there. That was so much fun. And he broke some news. He broke some news on the show about that he's going to be bringing back his Star Trek The Next Generation character, the outrageous Akona, to Star Trek Prodigy, the animated, talking about animated series. He's bringing that character back. They're doing these legacy characters. Janeway's coming back. So he broke some news on Comic Book Central. That was fun. Buck Rogers, I've been doing a lot of Buck Rogers themed episodes. Tom Christopher, Barbara Luna, Pat Jankowicz, author Pat Jankowicz, they've been on the show. Superboy, I've got Superboy episodes, Sherman Howard. Smallville's 20th anniversary is this year. So I'm hoping to have some more Smallville episodes. So look, it's a party. It's a celebration over on Comic Book Central. Everybody's invited. John, you're always invited. Stop by and listen to the party and just celebrate along with us. And you can watch Greatest American Hero with myself and William Catt.
I just listened, in fact, just the other day as I was going in to get my second shot to the Michael Pare interview. And I'm not going to spoil, but there was something he revealed there that I was like, ooh, this does the old youngin' in me some joy. If you know me well enough, you'll know exactly what it is, but you should be listening anyway. Make sure you're heading on over to comicbookcentral.net, your hub for everything Comic Book Central, whether it's your Twitter, your Instagram, Facebook, all your links are there, plus all the episodes are listed there. But yeah, I was like, Michael Pare, he's even cooler than I thought.
But he's Tony Villacana. He in real life, that's such a marriage of character and actor too, because as you hear it play out, he talks. He's like, what do you mean? What do you know?
Yes, I know. There's a couple of times I'm like, is he doing Tony or is he just being Michael?
Right,
but then this thing that he revealed was so un-Tony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fun one. They're fun interviews. Like I said, I've got more Greatest American Hero coming up. This is I so love the show. Look, we're not going anywhere, right? It's quarantine, so I'm doing binge watching Batman, New Adventures of Batman. I've got my 3-season volume Greatest American Hero. I'm watching all those episodes. So look, we talked about this before. I think we alluded to it earlier, but physical media, man, like the DC streaming thing went away. It's not on HBO. I think you said New Adventures of Batman is on
Tubi.
It's streaming Tubi, okay. But people are always like, "Oh, I've got it here." I don't get the physical media, man. Get the DVD sets. We've talked about them. Any of your favorite shows, just go get them. And that way you have them. They're always streaming in your house. So, got Greatest American Hero. I got the DVDs. I love that. All these different things. I'm just having a fun time going back and watching these. So, yeah, I appreciate you mentioned this show. It's a party, man. It's a party, and everybody's invited.
And everybody's invited. And you're invited back, folks, for the next party Joe and I are having here in the Batcave when we meet up with the Penguin.
Oh,
yeah.
A classic.
Yep.
That one I know. That one Batman and Robin will know. They should know the Penguin.
Yeah, they should. They should. Where he's opening up a school for criminals in order to incapacitate the dynamic duo. That'll be next time here on the podcast. Stay tuned for that. Stay tuned as Jim Beard and I wrap up 1943 Batman movie serial. As Dan Greenfield and I are finally getting back, we're going to meet up next weekend as I'm recording this and start recording our reviews of the 66 comic book, where Robert Long and I will be back with more of the more obscure movies that were spun off or dedicated or homages to, so to speak, Batman 66. It's all coming along here on the Batcave podcast. Make sure you're checking us out on your favorite podcast app or by visiting us over at thebatcavepodcast.com. So until next time, folks, thank you so much for listening. Joe, once again, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Always have a blast talking Batman and Robin with my Bat Chum. Thanks so much.
Until then, folks, citizens, take care, everybody.